Mr. Trennert is known as one of Wall Street's top thought leaders on subjects of markets and economic policy. His research pieces are read by leading institutional investors and corporate executives across the globe and are frequently quoted in the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, Fortune, Financial Times, and many other platforms. Mr. Trennert's first book, New Markets, New Strategies, which integrated time-tested investment lessons with all new approaches to common stocks, including groundbreaking technological innovation, was a practical guide that numerous reviewers agreed should be part of every investor's library. And he mentioned he'd also be happy to answer investment questions during the Q&A. This next one, though, my side of the street, is quite a bit different. As he describes it, art memoir, art love story to an institution popularly viewed as a necessary evil, or as just plain evil. Within that book, as one critic suggested, Mr. Trennert reveals the heart and soul of Wall Street, discarding the myths and showing the dignity and grit still driving American finance. Along the way, he describes his experience here in business school, in which he tosses out a few criticisms and more than a bit of hilarity. But what better way to get an invitation to come back and speak at your business school than to do that? So without further ado, please join me in welcoming
Thank you, Dr. Shealy, for reading that exactly as I had written it out for you. It's a very nice invitation, very nice introduction. Let me manage all your expectations. I don't know if I'm going to be like Professor Siegel up here or anything, standing room only. But it really is a great honor to be back. As Professor Shealy, Dr. Shealy said, I have some things to say about business school in the book, which I have to say isn't entirely complimentary, if not Wharton in particular. It's just really about kind of the way the educational system works. And I wrote the book largely not to defend the indefensible, because there's plenty of things on Wall Street that are indefensible, but it's also to talk about the things that are very defensible, and talk about, as Dr. Shealy said, the things about the tribes of Wall Street, people that make up this industry, which in my view is one of the main reasons why America became America, one of the reasons why the American economic engine is what it is. So I'll tell you a story. I'll start off with a story. So I have a 13-year-old son, and standing on the side of freezing my butt off on the side of a cross field. And I'm talking to one of the other fathers, as we do. And he says, so what do you do for a living? I said, well, I work on Wall Street, and so on and so forth. Gee, that's unbelievable. He's like, I just saw this movie, The Wolf of Wall Street. And it's like, you really like that? With the drugs and the women, and all that stuff. I said, no, it's not really like that. Not for me, anyway. It hasn't been like that. And then he looked at me and said, gee, that's too bad. It is too bad, but I've been working too hard. Now, I'll give you a little bit of my story, and I'll try to give you things, one of the reasons why I really want to come here is that I feel strongly, I have a very strong sense of empathy for people that are striving, because I'm old now, 47, I'm still striving. And I remember what it's like to look for a job undergrad. I remember what it could look like for a job in business school, all the anxiety, all the worry. And I wanted to kind of maybe impart part of the reason why I wrote the book too is to kind of impart some of the maybe lessons I wanted along the way, to the extent to which they can be helpful. But just to give you a little bit of my background, just so you kind of know where I'm coming from. My mom was born in Italy, my dad was American, and then they were both public school teachers. And then I originally went to Georgetown. The idea was I was going to be a spy. That was kind of the original idea. I was going to work for the CIA. And then I can't keep a secret, and like perpetually suntan, and so that didn't work out. And then I got it, and this was in the old days, in the '80s, before there was a big, internship culture. When you were an undergrad, you would really just get a job. Summer job. It wasn't called, you could call it anything you want, but you had to show up at a certain time. You'd be waiting tables or bartending, and you could do that then, and all the rest of it. But after my junior year, I got a job at a brokerage firm, Smith Barney, on Long Island. And I really fell in love with the industry. It's hard to believe because I was a cold caller, okay? So if anyone's done that, but that's that sort of thing. It's hard to fall in love with that. But the industry itself I love. And it was really kind of a love at first sight. The book is called My Side of the Street. I wanted to actually name it Wall Street is My Mistress. But my publisher said that would be too controversial and all the rest of it. And that's why, regardless of what Dr. Chittick said, I got 1,000 of them in my basement. So trust me, if you need some, it's not a bestseller or anything. I got plenty if you want it to. But maybe that title would have been better. But in any event, so I went back to Georgetown my senior year. I knew exactly, for the first time in my life, I really knew what I wanted to do. And I got a job in Morgan Stanley. But I got a job in Morgan Stanley, not in the 2-year analyst program, investment banking program, which M&A at that point was big, right? That was what you really wanted to do. I got a job in the back office. And that's probably the first introduction I got to what Wall Street is all about. And frankly, so many things in your life, I think St. Teresa of Avila said, more tears have been shed over answered prayers than unanswered prayers. Did you hear that? And in some ways, thank goodness I didn't get a job in a two-year investment banking program, because getting a job in the back office of a big investment bank like Morgan Stanley was an education in itself, because it showed me really what the business was all about. Now, it wasn't easy, and trust me, there was nothing about it that was glamorous. And this was all true candor. One of the jobs I had, one of the guys I sat next to would collect cans during his lunch hour for the deposit. Okay, so that was kind of the people I was working with. Okay, so this is kind of the real thing. These are people that they're taking the subway to work every day, and they're trying to make ends meet. I was in Brooklyn. I was in Metro Park in Brooklyn. I was at 1251 Avenue of the Americas in Morgan Stanley. I was there for a while, and then moving down to Brooklyn. But I wound up seeing what the industry looked like. Then I got lucky, to be very candid, I got very lucky, some serendipity, and I became an institutional salesman at a place called ISI Group. And ISI Group was recently purchased by Evercore. But it kind of started me on this road, and that was really a big break, just the extent to which I really, I could use all the things I fell in love with, particularly in terms of the research. But over the course of about 25 years, I've done a lot of things on Wall Street. So I worked in the back office, I was an institutional salesman. When I got out of business school, I was an FX trader for about a year, until I realized I wasn't good at it, I didn't like it. And then I started as an investment analyst, and then really figured out that I wanted to be an investment strategist. And then it all kind of worked out after that. It worked out basically through a lot of hard work and a lot of, I got to tell you, a lot of bruises. This isn't any sort of victory lap, I can tell you. There's been a lot of times I've been tackled in the bad field, and had to get up and dust myself off again. And that's part of the reason I came why I'm here, is to tell you that, I think when you're young, one of the things that I remember myself thinking is that you have this kind of path for yourself that's laid out. And then you realize, use a football term, it's all a broken play. Right? It's all, you have all these plans that are set forth, and then when the ball is snapped, it's mayhem. And you think, if you get the 2-year analyst job with Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley or something, you think basically your career is over and you're set for life, and you realize, no, it's not like that at all. It's just beginning. And then, people really never care more about where you went to business school than probably the year after you went to business school. After that, people really don't care. It's very much true of undergraduates, too. Of my class, 75% of the people that graduated from my class at Wharton in '96, 75% of the people moved to a different job within 18 months of graduating from Wharton. Okay? So if you think about all the time, stress, effort, anxiety put into the job search, which when I came in here, started the first day I started at work. Very first day I saw a fellow named Dick Fold, who some of you may or may not know who he is. He was head of Lehman Brothers, who, I don't know Mr. Fold personally, but he was nicknamed the Gorilla. Okay, and there were plenty of good reasons for that. He was a very scary guy, and he really made it very apparent that, you know, with veins popping out inside his head, that not everybody was going to cut out to work at Lehman Brothers. You know, he was the CEO of Lehman Brothers, and that was obviously true. Not everyone was cut out to work at Lehman Brothers. Again, kind of look back at this and say, gee, you know, it's an interesting period of my life where the job search really started the first day I came here. Now, you spent all this time, again, I wound up getting a job as an FX trader because it sounded like it was a great idea. It sounded sexy. It sounded like it would be kind of a fast track and, you know, mysterious locales, you know, James Bond type stuff and all the rest of it. And then, you know, again, I found myself sitting elbow to elbow with a guy named Noodles, and I was looking at the 5-minute moving average dollar mark versus the 10-minute moving average of dollar mark. And that was a big part of my job. It didn't have a lot to do with what I learned in business school. So again, there's a big part of the book and a big part of the story I'm telling you is that, you know, there's a clash between, at least for me, you know, maybe I'm more romantic, between the romantic visions of what you think your life is going to be like and what it turns out to be. As far as Wall Street is concerned, you know, maybe kind of making it a little bit less personal, I think going back to that lacrosse story, I think one of the things, I'm at an age now where I can't remember whether I was taught certain things or just forgot them, or just never learned them in the first place. But one of the other things about my education is that I was an economics major, I had a concentration in finance here, and I can't remember a lot of chatter about what the theory of a corporation was, or what capital was, or what the difference between money and capital was. Like a lot of very basic things that unfortunately take you a long time. Frankly, it took me really the global financial crisis when a lot of these epiphanies started coming to me. But this is a simple review. I just mentioned a few books that I think are very much worth reading. But one of the most important books I've read is a book called The Mystery of Capital by an economist named Fernando DeSena. Very, very important economist. But one of the central points he makes is really the difference between money and capital. And there's a tendency, they're both denominated in dollars or currency. There's a tendency to think that money and capital are the same thing. But they're two very different things. Money is inert. Money just is in a bank account someplace. Capital is when you take money and you invest it to do something productive, right? And ultimately, that's the purpose of the capital markets. Right? And so there's a lot of different avenues in the capital markets. Investment banking, trading, sales, all the rest of it. But ultimately, that's really the purpose. Right? The purpose of economics is to obviously allocate scarce resources. Right? Again, this is something where I might have been taught that maybe my first day in undergrad, but I'd forgotten it a long time ago. Most of my life became focused on getting a better job than the next guy. And I didn't think a lot about what I was doing. It took a long time to figure out what I was doing, why I was doing it. Then I started thinking about what is America, what makes America America. Again, I think, frankly, the depth of the capital markets is one of the things that allowed the U.S. to create one of the most, I guess, one of the most vibrant economic systems of all time. Certainly, the amount of people that you would describe in dire poverty, well, it was cut in half between 1800 and 1950. It was cut in half again between 1950 and 1990. And a lot of that really was due to the free market system, capitalism, and again, the development of capital markets. Again, there are abuses. I'm not saying that there are abuses in every industry, as we know. And I think it's important for people to kind of understand purpose of the financial markets. When I look at some of the presidential candidates now, say, and with all due respect, I'm sure Bernie Sanders is very popular in a lot of precincts around campus here. But this morning, I think Wall Street Journal said something about Bernie Sanders saying that he would make Johnny One Note look like Mozart. Which is to say, he hates Wall Street so much, that's his whole entire theme. And it's really somewhat very simplistic view of the world, because there are 6 million people in the United States that work in the finance industry. About 1 million of them work directly in securities and investments. The state of Vermont, I believe, has 627,000 people in it. Okay, so if you just kind of think about, Senator Sanders, represents about 600,000 people, but there's 6 million people that are involved in a business that I think is kind of critical to our economic system. One of the things that has been a problem with Wall Street, I think, is it used to be a profession. It used to be a lot like compensation. I kind of view compensation on Wall Street, a big Wall Street history buff. I kind of view compensation on Wall Street as pre-82 and post-82 in many ways. August 12, 1982 was the start of the Great Reagan bull market. That's when everything kind of took off. That's when people really started wanting. The 70s, you couldn't probably get people for love or money to work on Wall Street. It just was not part of the program. It wasn't interesting people. There are only people who really loved it, investors, that it's hard to conceive now, because I would imagine a lot of people are graduating from business school. Very few of them want to work at IBM or Caterpillar or a company that actually produces things. But it was certainly true when I was in business school. Virtually all of the class either wanted to work in investment banking or consulting. No one wanted to actually work for a real company. That's kind of the way it was. But no offense. I mean, I run a financial services company. I don't know how real a company is. I wouldn't produce anything. It's all intellectual property. Intellectual property. But, so here we are, and I kind of think about, again, business school, and think about the fact that my criticism of business school was largely driven by the fact that the job search started on the first day. I also thought it somewhat ironic that there was a grade non-disclosure policy. I think that's ironic because in some ways, Wharton should be almost a monument to free market capitalism. Grade non-disclosure seems like you're kind of cutting off an important signal. And I have to say, I took advantage completely of the grade non-disclosure policy, which is to say I did the bare minimum in every class. I'm not proud of it, but people do. One of the things I've learned since I've started my own company is people do exactly what you incentivize them.